Hey guys, my name is Noah and I'm coming at you guys with another video this week, and today we're going to be reacting to Ray Luzier talking with another fellow musician about how he got started doing gigs and stuff. So before we get into that, I wanted to quickly mention, if you haven't checked out my social media yet, please go check that out and consider giving me a follow. The more people I have on there following me means I have a higher chance of reaching out to new people. And since I'm trying to build up my brand and my channel, that is really the best way you can help support me. So if you're looking to support me, check that out. And then also, just write down in the comment section what you think of the video. If you liked it, disliked it, if there was something I could have done differently, if there was something I could change, just let me know down in the description, or not in the description, in the comment section down below. That out of the way, let's just go ahead and get into the video. Like I said, we're watching Ray Luzier talk to another fellow musician about how he got started doing gigs and stuff.
Let me tell you something about the David Lee Roth gig, Elmo. How many hours do you got? Yeah!
I'm sitting here with a phenomenal drummer and performer, and I'm excited to hear this story. Ray, how did you get the Korn gig?
You know, this business is a very strange, fickle business, as everyone knows. A lot of auditions you go to, you never know what's going to happen. You know, sometimes you don't even know you're at an audition, you know.
Right.
Through the grapevine, you kind of find out, you know, my whole thing was like, how do you get an audition? I don't know. I had the opposite approach when I moved to Los Angeles. I would lock myself in a room, a rehearsal space, and just play and play and play, thinking I'm going to get so good that no one's going to turn me down. And lo and behold, that was really wrong. You know, you need to go out and network, and you need to meet people. And fast forward to the Korn gig, my previous band.
Okay, I did want to mention, I've been kind of doing the similar thing that he talked about there, where I've been locking myself in a room and trying to just practice. I'm doing that right now just because I haven't really had time to actually go through and practice a lot. I'm working on some different songs, some different practice things, some warm-ups and stuff, which is stuff I haven't really done in the past. I will say that there's nothing wrong with doing that to start, like, so you can warm up and, you know, get ready and get in a spot where you're good. I'd say once you start getting into that intermediate area, kind of where I'm at, you should be able to start looking for gigs and stuff. I will mention how he said that he didn't know in the beginning how to get gigs. That's a lot of things a lot of musicians such as myself struggle with, and I'm actually, you know, struggling to find auditions myself. I've got these posters all made and set up. I just have to go out and start putting them up around some of the music stores and some venues that I know of around here in my hometown. But yeah, it's really hard reaching out to people, and you would honestly think it wouldn't be that hard to set up an audition and stuff like that, but especially since after we just got out of COVID and everything, I've been in contact with a couple people, and they've just said that they don't want me just because I'm out of their area. Like, I was in touch with a group from Grand Rapids who said they needed a drummer for a session, and unfortunately they didn't want me to come because I was from Muskegon, and just because COVID was really bad at the time, they didn't want me traveling, and it was just all kinds of stuff. I tried recontacting with them, and they said unfortunately they found someone in their area, so, you know, kudos to them. Fortunately, it didn't work out for me. I've tried a couple other places with no response, so I get that it's hard to find places. He does talk about how he has a manager, and I mean, I'm not at that point yet to really think about getting one. My style of playing is, like I said earlier, intermediate. I wouldn't call myself a pro, but I could definitely keep down a beat, and I can definitely learn really quickly based off what someone asks me. So it's just really cool seeing a musician this big talk about how he also struggled trying to get into the music business. It's just really cool.
Army of Anyone, with Robert and Dean DeLeo from Stone Temple Pilots and Richard Patrick from Filter.
It's also just cool, like, hearing him name drop, and as a musician, like, I'm hoping to get to the spot where he is at one point, either with my playing or with sound engineering, which is the field I'm trying to get into. It's just really cool to be able to hear all these names that he's dropping, all these people that he's played with, and it's just really cool to think one day, if I play my cards right, I'd be able to be, you know, making a video similar like this and just name dropping like crazy, kind of like he's doing right now.
I was just leaving the David Lee Roth gig, looking for another band, and Korn's management also managed Army of Anyone. And I remember calling my manager saying, what's going on with Korn? They keep all these drummers, and he was like, yeah, they're looking for someone, permanent. And they actually really dig your Army of Anyone record, and I'm like, I'm flattered. And months goes by. It was the end of Joey's tour, the end of the run, and Joey, he had to go back to Slipknot, and now they're definitely looking for a drummer. And my manager goes, you should just go up there, learn 5 or 6 songs, and see how it goes, And I'm like, where? He goes, just go to the arena. I'm like, I'm going to go to the arena on their last show. With what? He goes, we'll just rent you some little kit. So I learned about 33, 35 Korn songs as best as I could. Monkey comes in, he's like,
That's a lot to learn. I really want to know how much time he had between learning and then going and seeing the band and performing for them. It's just crazy. He said 35, like that's a lot. And again, like I said in previous videos that we've talked about Ray or Korn, it's crazy to see the dedication that goes into all this stuff to get to the point where they're at and to be as good as they are. It's unbelievable.
I'm sorry we're late. It's the last day of the tour, and he's eating a sandwich. Like, I'm just like, this is weird,
Because everyone knows too, like in the touring world, the last day of a tour is a different dynamic of every other day of the tour.
You're already home.
Yeah,
you're already in your bed.
home.
You're already like, bye,
You're planning your prank for the night.
Totally.
And that's it.
Yeah, so, he comes in, what do you know? And I hand him this paper. And he's like, you know all this? I'm like, kind of, I started naming songs. And he's like, well, let's do some of the hits. So we did, of course, Falling Away From Me and Here to Stay. And I said, let's do Every Beat, because Every Beat has a lot of crazy drumming on it. And he's like, you know that song? I'm like, kind of. And so we're playing through it.
It's also interesting too because he's talking about how he came in with a sheet of all the songs he knew, or while he's there in front of the lead singer and the band itself, and they're like, "You know this stuff? Like you actually know it?" And he's kind of like, kind of, like I could do it, like just really cool. Just so nonchalant about it all too, like. He's been through, he's done a lot, and he did a lot of music before this, so he's got the background, he's got the skills developed, and it's just interesting being able to see him be like, yeah, I kind of know what I'm doing, and able to land a gig. It's just really cool.
You can actually watch my audition on YouTube. It's actually on there.
Really?
If you type in Ray Luzier audition, you can see me playing. I didn't know I was being filmed. They told me they were going to go to lunch and talk about it. Usually when they say that means you didn't get the gig. Mm-hmm. And next thing you know, cameras in my face, and it's like, you got the gig, and welcome to Korn. We'll see you in Dublin. It didn't hit me for a week.
Oh, it didn't hit him for a week that he was in the band. That's crazy. I feel like as soon as I would get an audition or a gig or anything like that, if I got an audition, I would be freaking the fuck out. Like, I wouldn't know what to do. I would be so nervous. I feel like I would mess up. But he didn't feel like he was in the band for like a whole week. Like, it just never registered. And that's crazy. Like I just said, I would be off the walls. As soon as they said you got the gig, I would have been out. I would have been yelling. I would have been dancing. I would have been doing all kinds of dumb shit. Like, that's just crazy.
I was in the band. I went to the next clinic with this big grin on my face, and I'm doing my clinic, and all I could think about is like, I'm doing the new Korn tour. This is crazy, And we did a 4.5 month world tour in 36 countries right off the bat.
Oh, wow.
And we didn't rehearse or anything.
They didn't rehearse? Wow. I guess he came in with a sheet of paper and he's just like, yeah, I kind of know all this stuff. And they're just like, fuck it, let's go. Why not? What was it, 35, 36 countries? Fucking hell.
I rehearsed before the first Korn show.
You just showed up to Dublin.
I showed up to Dublin the day before. We ran the set at the venue. That's it. There's no one like Korn fans. I mean, these people have all the records tattooed, all the members. I mean, they're not messing around. I remember telling my friends, if I can just get a year out of this, it'll be good for my resume. I love this band. It's, they approached me. They said, hey, we don't want you going anywhere. And I'm like, I'm not going anywhere. And they're like, no, we really want to take you on. And if you're into this. And I was like blown away. I was like, yeah, of course. Let's figure it out, because I hate paperwork to this day. The business side is always a bummer. what I found out years later is I wasn't educated on the music business enough. That's why it was a bummer. I always made bad deals. And that's why I encourage up-and-coming musicians to really educate yourself on that. Don't do what I did. It took me a decade to really figure out. I signed a lot of bad record deals and a lot of bad... I didn't care. I was like, I just want to tour and...
Okay, so here he just got done talking about how he's encouraging young musicians to educate themselves on the way that the music business works. And that's been something I've been trying to do, and I've been struggling a lot. So, like, I wish that there was... I mean, there probably are videos out there that just haven't stumbled upon, but I really wish that there were people out there who really went in depth and really explained how the music business works, what a record deal is, how that affects you. And I never knew, like, I just recently found out about how big bands such as Korn or like Five Finger Death Punch, Disturbed, like big bands like that, they start small and then they build up, and then it becomes more of a business instead of more of a band, where you have your management, and then you have your team who sets up, so like your roadies, and it just the whole business side of it. And I could definitely say more that now that we've gotten into more of a digital and now that we're in like in the present, because before you could form a band just like with anybody and do a couple songs and people will like you just because of the way that you look. Like, think about all the hair metal bands, or bands who people would just go just for the aesthetic or just for the look of them. It was a lot easier back in the day to become a band and to become famous and to tour and stuff like that. But now that we've gone into the modern age with more technology, things more available on the web and stuff, it's become a lot more of a business than it has more of a just, hey, you can play guitar, come with me and maybe we can have a shot. Now it's more of a, you could play guitar, well, can you do this, and this, and this, and can you do this along with this? It's just become a lot more of a business instead of just, hey, everyone, just do whatever you want, and, we'll, hopefully people will show up. And that's kind of something that I miss, honestly, about, or I wouldn't say I miss, but I kind of feel like I was born in the wrong generation. Like, I feel like I would have had a lot easier time if I was maybe born, maybe in the 70s or, younger than that. I just feel like I would have been able to reach out more. I would have been able to find people better. Because, like, nowadays it's just like, yeah, you have to have this, and this. You have to have all these qualifications. Like, I was looking at a band to audition for over in Traverse City not too long ago. And it wasn't like a metal band or anything. They were... I'm trying to remember. I believe it was a country band. I was just trying to get a gig, something to put on my resume, and they're like, okay, well, you need to know how to play this. I'm like, okay, that's fine. You need to know how to do this. Okay, that's fine. You need to know this, and it's just on and on and on. And I'm like, okay, it kind of seems like now instead of playing music, you're just trying to take out like the music aspect of it, of like building onto each other and being able to improvise off of each other. And it's more of like you just want a robot basically to just sit there and do what you want. And I have no problem, just to start off and just sitting there and even if it's just, hey, just keep a 2/4, no fills or nothing. If I'm getting paid and it's, starting off, I would be fine with that. But the band I was talking to in Traverse City, they unfortunately, it was more of like an internship type thing. They weren't willing to pay. They were talking more about, you'd get out there, you'd get people to know your name. And honestly, the only reason why I stumbled upon them is because I was on a website that's for young musicians looking for bands. And let's just say they weren't the best reviewed, and I don't even know if they're still a band anymore. I tried reaching out not too long ago, seeing if they were still interested after they said that they didn't want me because I didn't meet one of the qualifications, and I never got a response back. So... oh, well, let's get back into the video.
Tour the world and be on a CD, and here you go. It's like now
Right.
It's like, oh boy,
This was one of the first songs I ever learned on drums, and I'm sure it was for a lot of drummers. But what does that feel like to play blind in front of all the Korn fans and like the energy of that song? And
That's exactly the word is energy. There's a thing about it. There's something about the power of that, just that simple ride cymbal beginning to when the 808 hits to when Fieldy plays his bass part. You can feel the crowd. We could be on a 16-hour time change, jet lagged out of our minds, and just like, oh God, here we go again. second we hit the deck in that song, it's just like everything changes. You just become this character, you know. There's a zone you get into, and there's nothing you can do about it, you know. I'm looking out, and the 4 original members are standing in front of me, and it's just to see the fans' reaction. Jonathan never sang the song "Daddy" live before, so people were actually crying in the audience, and it was a very emotional thing, you know, to watch these fans, because it got them through a lot of crap in their lives. You know, it's like there's some people that go to a concert and it takes them away from their 9 to 5, and there's some people that go so far as like they'll go up to Jonathan and say, "You saved my life. If it wasn't for this record and you playing live, I was suicidal." And you're just like, whoa, it's a heavy thing. You know, music's way more powerful than we think, you know.
For sure. Tell me a bit about the David Lee Roth gig. How'd you get the David Lee Roth gig?
Let me tell you something about the David Lee Roth gig, Elmo. How many hours do you got? No, I'm sorry. I have to do the cigarette.
You nailed that impression.
Having David Lee Roth as your singer and having him as your roommate are 2 totally different things. You know?
Tell me about being on the bus with David Lee Roth.
Oh man, oh wow, he's a very unique individual, and you have to be David Lee Roth. How can you not? You can't be normal to be that eccentric and to be one of the world's greatest frontmen of all time. You just
agreed.
A Joe Schmo down the block is not going to have that position.
You're not going to do that.
No.
Yeah.
But he taught me so much. I call it the School of Roth, because Dave's the first one that said, like, you know, just because you're sitting in the back, you know, people pay good money. Put on a show. You're in showbiz, kid. You know, that was his whole thing. Dave's the one that said, like, put on a show back there, you know, and he made me sing. That was my first gig where I had to sing full-blown harmonies and on key, or he'd yell at you, and bashing my brains out. So now we have this 5-way independence. I'm already doing 4 limbs. Now I got to hold "You Really Got Me" and "Beautiful Girls" and "California Girls" and every other girl song we do, and at full force, you know. And would I literally have acapella, as Dave called them, Acapulco rehearsals. We're gonna get together and you guys are gonna sing for a couple hours today. And I'm like, what? And it would sit there and just with no instruments, singing all these parts, just like, man, when we hit the...
Okay, if you guys know me, like, outside of, like, the videos and stuff, you know I can't sing for shit, and if I went up and I had an audition or I had a gig and the guy's like, okay, you know, I got you because you played the drums, but now I want you to sing, that would be a deal breaker for me. Like, I'd be willing to learn, but if it's like a night or like 2 days before the concert or something like that, and he's like, okay, I want you to be pitch perfect and all this stuff, like, I struggle enough on the drums, like playing fast tempo songs, slow tempo songs. Like, I have enough to worry about on the set as it is. Like, adding in an extra thing last minute like that would just throw me way off. And it just goes to show how much of a good musician he is, that he can just, you know, learn how to sing. Or maybe he knew how to sing before. I don't know. But it's just crazy. Like, he was just talking about how he's got, you know, the 4-way independence going with his hands and feet, and now he's going to work on getting independence with his mouth so he can do everything while still singing. It's just really crazy, and this is the type of stuff that a lot of young musicians don't get to see, the actual, like, work and behind the scenes, and people, the way that they put everything together in order to make it to sound like what they want to sound or be what they want it to be. It's just crazy, because I feel like a lot of people, and especially me for a little while, I just thought that I would be able to get in just by the way I could play, by the little knowledge of music I know. But it's just crazy hearing them come up and talk about all these different, like, time signatures, 808s, you know, stuff like that. And it's just crazy, all the knowledge that these guys have and have to have in order to be where they're at now.
Deck on the very first, you know, show, we sounded like we've been on the road for a month. It was awesome because I grew up playing Van Halen. I had Dave from the US Festival hanging on my wall doing that kick. I mean, come on, there wasn't one show that I didn't look out and go, that's David Lee Roth. I'm sitting behind David. I'm providing the groove and the beat and the time for this guy, you know, that I worshipped, you know. So I never really took advantage of that, like, whole thing where, like, whatever, it's a gig, you know. I played Jump 5,000 times and, oh, great, we're opening up with Hot for Teacher again. Not once. It was
There's no way you could.
No.
I mean, like,
No.
Hot for Teacher is the reason why I got my double bass pedal when I was 10.
Totally,
'Cause I
man.
was just like, oh my God.
totally. And I was, I'm in my underwear in Pittsburgh, on the farm, on a 118-acre farm, trying to figure out the beginning of Hot for Teacher. Now I'm playing it with the guy. You
Yeah.
kidding me? It's like,
What was it like in your first experience meeting him, working with him?
my audition with Dave wasn't like anything else because they tricked me. I did this kid's record. His name was Mike Hartman, and unfortunately he passed away from cystic fibrosis at 24. He went to MI when I was a teacher there. I taught at MI for 10 years off and on around tours. And Mike would come up.
I did not know. I did not know that he was a teacher. He did say something earlier about how he. Oh, now it's gonna slip the name of the name of the thing is gonna slip my mind. Give me a minute. It'll come to me. It'll come to me. Nope, it's not coming to me. Anyway, he talked about something. Oh, a clinic. It came to me. There we go. He talked about when he got the Korn audition, how he went to a clinic the next day, and it really hadn't sunk in yet. I was just assuming that when he said a clinic that he was talking like he went to a clinic himself. And for you guys who don't know what a clinic is, you might be thinking I'm talking about like the hospital or something like that. But there's a thing in music called a clinic. It's where you go in, and we did a lot of this in my school with my jazz band, but you go in and you play a couple songs to, I wouldn't call it a judge, but it's like a teacher who works at the school, just a music teacher, another musician, and they listen to you play, they watch your performance, they take notes and stuff, and then after you're done, it's basically about, an hour or so, maybe longer, depending on what kind of clinic it is, but they basically just go on and tell you ways you can improve on what you did, on ways you can work. It's just cool. I didn't know that he was a teacher, and yeah, just pointing that out.
He had these like thick bifocal glasses, and I'm like, dude, you're a guitar player. What are you doing in my drum class? He's like, I like your playing. I'm like, cool, man. Let's keep it quiet. Sit over there and let me talk to the drummers. And he would just bug me. He's like, hey, man, Greg Bisonette's going to play on my solo record. I'm like, sure he is, kid. Like, what are you to bother me? Get out of here. Next thing you know, he's like, we're going to Steve Vai's house to record my record. I'm like, okay, kid, now you're really stretching it. We're going to Steve Vai's house? He's like, and we did. Like, he gives me the address, and I'm showing up at Vai's house in Hollywood, and I'm like, okay, this is bizarre. So anyway, long story short, I did a couple songs on this kid's record. He calls me up about 6 months later, and goes, hey, I'm working with David Lee Roth. And I'm like, should I believe this kid? We went to Vai's house. Maybe he is working with it. He goes, and I got even better news. Dave likes the 2 songs that you played, and he wants us to re-record them because he's going to put vocals on them because it was an instrumental record. And I'm like,
What a call.
yeah, I'm like, are you freaking kidding?
Yeah, if I would have gotten that call, I would have been freaking out. I would have just been like, I'll be there in 5. Like, just tell me where. I'll be there as fast as I can.
I'm there, man.
For sure.
So, that was you talk about a bucket list. I just wanted to meet that guy, let alone play on something. Are you kidding? So all I know is I'm playing these 2 songs, and I do my first take, and Dave walks in as I'm kind of warming up, practicing, and he's kind of hunched over because he just had this back surgery. And hey, kid, it's good to meet you. I'm a fan. I'm like, I'm a fan of you, sir. I can't even believe I was stunned. He's like, I'm playing my first take, and he's back there, and he hits the talk back button, and he goes, somebody take the bongo player to Starbucks. He's dragging. And I'm like, and he goes, and he walks in the drum room, and now I'm like, oh crap. And he's like, hey kid, what if I said play this fill right here? And I'm like, okay, I'll play this. And he's like, no, I want you to swing. What if you put those 2 bass drums underneath that? And I'm like, oh crap. And he's asking me all these questions, and I'm like, that was kind of weird. And he goes back in the control room, and he's talking to his bodyguard, his manager, and I get a call the next day from his bodyguard. He goes, hey kid, you passed with flying colors. I'm like, pass what? He's like, didn't you know it was a little weird that Dave was asking you all those questions? I'm like, yeah, of course, but I thought he was just, putting me through a test for the studio. And he goes, no, that was a gig. You got the gig. So there you go. Now it's a surprise audition. I had no clue that I was being interviewed You know what I mean? I was
Right.
just doing the best. I'm so glad he did that, because if I'd have known that was an audition for that band, I would have been 10 times more nervous.
Right.
See, that's what I was just talking about earlier, about if I would have known that I was going in for an audition for, like, let's say Korn called me up just out of the blue and like, hey, we need you for an audition, I would be freaking out. I mean, obviously the likelihood of them calling me, asking me for an audition is like next to zero, but I mean, still, I would be freaking out. Like anyone, like if I fingered Death Punch, Beartooth, you know, someone called me up like that, I mean, obviously I would, tell them, like, hey, I appreciate the offer. I don't have the skill to play with you guys quite yet, but I appreciate it. But I'd be losing my shit, like, if I were at that point where I would be like, I could do anything. You know, I could play with any band. Like, I'd just, like, it's just crazy. How lucky he's got. Like, he didn't know he was going in for an audition, got the gig with the whole Korn thing, didn't know he was going to get the thing, and he got it. Like, it's just crazy being able to see, especially someone you look up to, like I look up to Ray. It's just crazy seeing what they go through, and it just really makes me think of, like, oh, okay, he went through all this crazy stuff. What's in store for me? You know.
You know what I mean?
Smart man.
Tricky guy. Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
He's and then it was weird. John 5 was in the band at the time, and John's like, hey man, Marilyn Manson just offered me this tour, and next thing you know, the band was disbanding, and I was the only one left. So we put together a band for the beginning of the '99 tour that we did, and it was 8 years, and I did 3 studio records and a crazy video called David Lee Roth No Holds Barbecue. We're on a tour bus in Detroit, and Ted Nugent's on this side, and Kid Rock's over here, and they're watching this video, and Dave's all happy, he's like smiling, you know, and they're just like, what is this video we're watching? It was so bizarre. I mean, there was like, yeah. Anyway, it's a rare find, but if you check that,
Dude, I'm gonna find it
if
for
you can
sure.
find that,
I'm gonna dig.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Man, well, thank you so much for taking the time.
Of course.
Coming and hanging out,
Of
man.
course,
I
it
love
was-
your story. All right, Ray, tell me about these beautiful Vic Firths you have in your hand.
Yeah, I'm very honored that Vic Firth asked me to make my own signature stick. I'm a peon on this giant roster of amazing, you know, influential drummers that have changed my life and my, you know, helped my career. And these are for you.
Yes.
Yes, they're for you.
My gift.
Yes.
Dude, amazing.
I'll sign
I'm
them.
literally going to play with these.
I'll sign them. They'll be worth another 50 cents.
Dude, get at me on eBay in 2 months from now.
Yes.
Wow. Yeah, no, just really cool being able to listen to another musician talk about how he managed to get gigs and how he got started. Again, it's something that a lot of young musicians such as myself, we think we know what it's like just based off of listening to music, or, you know, just based off of what little knowledge we have. But it's just crazy to think about all the things that we didn't know. Things that would affect us, such as record deals, you know, just things like that. It's just really crazy. And then again, you really get to see the whole business aspect of it more, because like I said earlier, I used to think that bands just got together and went out and played, and, you know, once they got a big enough fan base, they were able to put on these big shows. But really, it's all management, and, you know, you've got sponsors, and you have all these other things. So instead of it more being like a band, it's more of a business. And it's just crazy to be able to hear someone else talk about how they learned and how they figured out, because like he said, he didn't really understand the music business when he first started and all that. It's just interesting to hear someone else talk about how they're going through something that how they went through something that a lot of young musicians go through all the time. It's just crazy. So yeah, again, that was just Ray Luzier talking about how he got into the music business. If you guys have any videos you want me to review, any cover songs, anything like that, just put it down in the comment section. And again, I will have links to my social media down in the description, so feel free to check them out. And yeah, this is, I believe, video 3 out of 6 or 8, depending on how many I get to this week. So yeah, I will see y'all later. Bye.